Alright, it is April 12th, 2022. If I had to direct myself to an audience, it would most likely be the MH from the 11-3-68 on a very specific, and it would most likely be Zodiac Boat in like a rescue situation of 8377, I believe, if I was to speak correctly. Today's April 12th, 2022. And there's a show that comes on in New York. Don't have any idea where anybody else is. That is called CBS Mornings. I sometimes take samples of it, almost like in an ecological whatever. So this way, the actual spoken word and visual display does not change in the background for what I am speaking on, which I call overlay parlay. Because I know in this crazy technological world, they'll use background changes in filters and things, which, again, so if I go strictly for headlines of what was on the show today, between the first half and the second half, which it's almost like a playbill in change-ups, and then there's commercials in between, which are their paid-for sponsors, which I don't normally do. But just like when I got dragged on my birthday, which was someone else's birthday as well, to a rooftop bar after a comedy show, and I was in whatever hot weather clothing. Tia Freo, who has moved into my house at that point, wouldn't leave me alone, wouldn't move out, after meeting at something called a blacksmith's bar with Frank Falco, who was already a known problem on Long Island, with land management. There is this rooftop bar thing where I was absolutely frigid and frozen. I was getting really cold, and I went over to the bar and I asked if they served tea, because I was so cold I wanted to warm my inner core. To which one of the good ones at the bar, which is, I don't know if that's a normal thing, offered me a jacket. And then there is a very clear picture taken of me in a fedora hat, in this jacket, or, I mean, it was a houndstooth, maybe sports coat. And it was completely, I mean, it was so large, it was almost like an over, I don't know, I don't have wardrobe words for these things. But that very classic, at sunset, very classic photo, only one really I can remember being of memorabilia, like importance of that night, was on my original Facebook, not the one that I'm using now. So today in the headlines, I could go through them. Well, I'll go through them first, then I'll skip to I'll go back to the importance to me in order. First of all, yesterday was CMT Awards, which is the Country Music Awards. I don't watch. But apparently the superstars and the fans that they have in important people in the world, while the rest of us are in this situation, they celebrate one another in however that works. There was some really heinous sexual assault in Mariupol, I believe is the town. No, there was a sexual assault in Ukraine somewhere that they mentioned. Then there was a story on severe weather, like hail the size of baseballs. Then there was something about wildfires where PE&G got involved. Now, I know that this is significant because they went with something civil. They didn't go with criminal, which someone needed somewhere in the world. I just don't know the significance myself personally. I just know that that's an unusual set of circumstances. But there's something between the people of my level and of the, I guess, the lawyers at my level that went to like Harvard or local Toro College of like I don't know whose words they're studying, but they got some school and they really think that they're doing something great. And then there's like a US attorney version of it where then they battle for some reason. So I don't know, they tried this thing out with this going civil rather than criminal. I really don't know the benefits. I think all humans are evil at this point based on my, except for like one of the good ones that came and gave me that jacket, and of course the one that invited me to Seder once. But again, I don't have like a religious of anything. Oh, and then the other day I heard, I heard them use the word. I mean, I use diet nutrition for imperial order. I read that about Caesar once in a synopsis that was put on my algorithm. And but I didn't realize if I was like speaking to a Victorian of like Sydney, of like, there's also a tie in there of sudden infant death syndrome with SID. But if I was speaking to, they would say deity, like they say diet. So I realized, I'm like, oh, is that where deity comes from? The inflection difference between diet and diet. Anyhow, then there was something with Shanghai lockdown. Shanghai's apparently in China. Again, my geography is not the best in this part of the world. Um, let's see. Then they have the art of the con, which ties into something, some TV program or real life thing. I mean, again, the humans are confusing. Or should I say Hunan? Then there's CMT Awards. Then there was like talk at the table afterwards with Tony Gale and their version of Vlad, not Vlad the Impaler from whatever, yesteryear. Then they go into something about egg supply, the cost of the grains to feed the eggs, to feed the chickens in order to make the eggs has gone up. And it's gone up by a substantial amount just to supply eggs, which again in Parasite and Paradox for Paratroop, I know this is so important. Then there's airline mask mandates. Now, are those the people that are allowed to travel? Because, like, I haven't really traveled much. I tried to get on the airlines, like, as a stewardess, like, as a job. I think they call them stewardess. They're flight attendant. I think that's what they call them now, not stewardess any longer. they never called me in for an interview, and I even did video interviews, put in paper interviews. The internet doesn't work. It's broken for me. I don't know why. Then they talk about Britney Spears and some conservatorship. And when I wrote the word conservatorship, I really looked at it in the SER and then the VA and then the torsion of time dilation in this whatever this is for, and then TOR, and then it's ship SHIP. I had no idea, because I don't get the headlines, that it was so invasive, Britney Spears' conservatorship with her father, that they actually had contraceptive in there. But now with that word being being contraband, is that where people, like the ones that are allowed to fly and travel in the U.S. system, that are kind of hovering as some whatever for custodial? I mean, I'm on the American side, so now I'm just curious, is this where they banned something and then as contraceptives and deceptives, they take people's rights away in order to further their own agenda and get their own people further ahead? I'm just curious, because I've heard these words used before, but not in the order for which I use them. And I'm looking at my own situation, and I'm like, so now which deceptive league put some contraband where I'm not allowed to do things for some reason, like get a 6 foot over handsome someone to marry me and to take care of me and have children with the respectable way the first time. And normally we grow up together, like you get the eggs and then the chickens and they stay in group, but I don't understand why I was left in the field and whatever this disgusting version of America is, with some kind of U.S. contraband and conservatorship on top of it. Then there was something about the Cardia Beat Mobile. I've mentioned that before on other highlight pieces. Like I grabbed samples of the commercial. Again, almost like sampling the dirty scum water at like an ecological pond. And then you have to run it through, of course, some kind of test facility to make sure that it's whatever at measurements of gallons and galleons. So there's a sinus rhythm with the heartbeat that I'm arrhythmic at this point. I'm pretty sure has something to do with electromagnetic impulse with the dome of magneticism and the physiological in tune. Again, there's no local doctors prepared for or that I've found, and I wouldn't know how to find something important in the U.S. or in America. They've taken that ability away with their contraband and their most whatever. So then in the second half, it goes back to the art of the con. Then it goes into jelly ice. Which inside that story, they said something about the application for PhD. And I'm like, well, that's really interesting. If we speak war theater and we talk about, let's see about this. Where is the, we speak about war theater, and then you go back to the first half where they mention the Shanghai lockdown organized in China. I'm like, it is amazing. I mean, you want to give props to people who do things correctly. They have such a system. It is so admirable and so impressive on one level. Then on another level, because it's not us, it's a formidable foe in fee fi fo fum of Jacques and the Giant, or Jack and the Giant. So, because they're able to organize really quickly and they're able to strike out really fast in a what looks like like desirable way at times. So I'm just confused and then so with the jelly ice, they were looking for a different ice for freezing fish. So this way, which again goes back, I'm on Fish Island still. And this like umbrella with universal whatever tie-in. So they have to apply for these PhD degrees and these funds from the US. So I don't know if there's some kind of leftover challenge and competitiveness in their built into their nature and their core. I'm just again confused as to which way that goes, because like are they the ones who are knocking out our marriages in this contra and conservatorship to getting to the right rooster chicken relation with the eggs in order to be able to have enough population and also get to like a pH level in order to participate in the US version of important people in the world, because it really feels like some dirty tricks have been put in, and I'm just following like the chain of evidence. Then it goes into the color purple, which was different. That's like on a humanitarian level where it's like human soup kitchen. The woman did a hand signal like this, which was interesting because I normally do one of these for cognition. Then Gail comes out with this, she changes wardrobe, and this is the fake king. And she comes out in what they refer to as cheap and cheery. It's a bright, like, magenta pink, sequenced outfit that some designer made for her that she wore. She was actually invited, believe it or not, to the CMT wards last night. Ties into whatever I got going on with having to sample the scum of the morning show that she happens to be on, that she holds near and dear to her competitive heart. So, but she, when she went to the show, was like all like hugs and kisses. People were expecting her. She knew who everybody else was. It was very unlike me being invited to Canada, or to Washington, D.C. when Canada flew in for whatever. Steve Morris was going to be speaking. We had an exit convention. So I went there with Scott something or other. I asked him if he would escort me or if he would be my date for the evening, although he's he plays lucky sevens, not 78s. So I knew I was safe because I was in a city that I didn't know anybody and I didn't want to go out in an evening gown by myself. So he was very kind. I also had a wardrobe malfunction, but so he escorted me, and there was no like, oh, how are you doing? Hugs and kisses for my CMT version, like from Canada. There, like, it was just everybody. We don't know each other from a hole in the wall. I mean, it's just, or sticky on a paper. I mean, they're just faces and names that I don't know. They might know mine. I don't know. I don't know why they would. And then you leave. But it's very different when Gail went to CMT Awards, because it was all hugs and kisses and like behind the scenes they knew each other and like they knew the tour de force behind the name and the actions and the whatever. Yeah, very different lifestyle. So then after her cheap and cheery, that's what she called her outfit. They went to Cobain. His guitar is hitting the block. The Nirvana Kurt Cobain guitar has some kind of special blue color. is going up for some kind of auction. Again, I'm not in a collector's arena. I mean, I don't speak collectors either. I don't know Christie's and Sotheby's, and I certainly don't know this lesser known auction house that they're using for Kurt Cobain's guitar. Then they go into a story about magic mushrooms versus depression. And then after that's behind the scenes of the CMT with Gail, which is where she does all the hugs and kisses because she actually knows the tour de force before she enters the room. I don't get, for some reason, in this humanity and Hunan, I have not been enlightened or brought into that level of circle. While she hosts in that enters New York airspace, she's hosting some show, and I'm here pinned in some contra conservative ship and totally oppressed and left out of the entire thing. Then it goes to James McAvoy live is what it is his, I don't know who this handsome gentleman or this was, but he has a beautiful accent and an intonation. But he's doing something about Cyrano. Now, I don't really know this Cyrano. I had seen the man, the actor, another actor I really appreciate, but I don't know how to verbally appreciate him. He's of a height. He's a shorter height. And he did a movie Cyrano. Then there's the James McAvoy one. They did like a look over the whatever. I did not realize they were talking about a big nose. Again, I haven't been introduced to the theater in this fallout shelter and this lifestyle of being in a room and being allowed out, but not really, but socially distant out, not having any real meaningful relationships ever. So they talked about this big nose thing, and then when they talked about the big nose, I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, that does ring a bell, but not that I've learned that in this whatever. I've learned that I call it a hole in time and space when I find people who actually love me, not like this version of humans. And then there's some talks of something called a Roxanne in there, and I'm like, I wonder if that's part of this rock, paper, scissors thing. But again, I don't have any verification of that. Then it goes from there, it goes back to CMT, where Carrie Underwood, which I find interesting since I'm a G under. Linda's a Gunder. I'm a G under, because I came out as a cat from her Gunder. From the big gun, I came G under. So, Carrie's got Underwood, which is interesting. So she won some fan award with the CMT. She was wearing lavender. She looked like a circus performer in the acrobatic category with scarves, and I mean the amount of physical strength she had to have to pull that performance off, and her timing of her breathing, and to be able to belt out those notes. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, that's the physicality that I would like to be performing at. Instead, here I am where I have diastasis, where my abdominal, my R.A.W, I have R.A.W, where it has separated and my diaphragm's coming through. I can't even hold myself upright. I mean, the physicality here has been conservatored with contraceptive and deceptive device to completely break down my physical ability to even perform. And not at Carrie Underwood performance, although I would have loved to have been given that opportunity, was never afforded me. I can't even perform at a human level of walking around and breathing and having my heart beat in a sinus rhythm between the AV nodes on a correct timing precision, because something in the area is interfering with it. So she's wearing this lavender color, not purple, in a circus style performance while singing a song about ghost, which is spelled G and then host, which I thought was interesting. Also, OST leads us to Asta, which is like some form of showstopper. In Greek, I think. So that is for Zodiac Boat, what's going on. I do have it, I will sample it a different way, perhaps, but I thought I'd do it by hand, so this way there's no CRM hub that might get in the way between a woman who is really being hurt in actuality. It's a high science performance in order to make my anatomy appear this way and to be so, I mean, like, it's like stretching skin is what this feels like, but without surgical procedure of an implantation. They're able to do it almost like that jelly ice from some electromagnetic and static whatever by changing the weather pattern. It's weather pattern manipulation is what some have called it. So it is what it is. I don't know how to get out of it. I can barely walk. The fluid in my kneecaps is gathering in such a way, and it's not being reabsorbed into my like myelin or myomere level of like myoskeletal system. Again, I don't think it's CNS, which is central nervous system. I don't think that it's ANS, being auxiliary, or I forget what they use the word for, but for me it's auxiliary nervous system. It has something to do, because that would be more, well, maybe because it's electrolytes, but it's something's wrong between puppet and puppeteer level of being able to move in a free form and free flow and have free movement. I mean, that's how disgusting America and this flag system has become at this point. I don't even have freedom of movement on the street in order to get to a gym, in order to control the to to bolus level of energy disbursement and poison and toxin detox of sweating it out. I can't even get to that level because something is biorhythmically off in such a horrific and finite level. I mean, it's taking away personal freedoms at such an even more disgusting level. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken. I did ask the really kind one of the good ones that came and lent me his jacket because I was absolutely freezing cold, and as usual, Tiafreo was putting me directly in harm's way, 1975. Especially being the audience of one of the good ones actually showed up for once. And I don't know if it was there to catch me trying to do, like, in the wrong, or if it's trying to intervene and intercept to try to help me in a more one of the good one ways where they actually want to see you do well and they don't want to see you get punished and hurt wrongfully for being in some illegitimate whatever. I mean, again, when, I mean, it is just, I can't with Lewis and Linda. It's just, this entire appearance has been horrific. It's star 1978, star 8378. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York 11361.